Okay, we've got another big battery to look at today. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Dave from Chase to Summit, and today we're going to be taking a look at this really big power bank. Not that big, because I've had some bigger ones on the channel, and that's why I wanted to look at this one today, because I think it's a little bit more realistic compared to the other stuff I've showed you in different videos. And for those unaware, these types of products come in a different variety of names. They could be called a solar generator or a power station, or in this case, a PowerHouse. This is the Anker 757 PowerHouse, and spoiler, this video is sponsored, so it's not an in-depth review or anything, it's more of an overview, but I did want to show it to you because it's pretty cool, and I do want to thank Anker for sending this over and sponsoring this video. The reason why I'm so interested in the Anker 757 PowerHouse is because I think it strikes a good balance of size, capacity, and weight in what it can do. Because in previous videos, I showed you smaller power banks. Like here's a Jackery, here's an EcoFlow, and here's a RAV Power, and all of these are really capable devices. However, they're pretty small, and because of that, they don't have a ton of battery capacity. So if you have a couple of laptops and a drone and a camera, you may deplete the batteries in these pretty quickly, whereas the 757 has a lot more capacity and capabilities, which is why I'm pretty excited about it. And while this one is pretty big, it's not the biggest I have. If you remember, a couple of weeks ago, I posted a video about this thing, which is the Anker 767. This thing is an absolute beast of a battery bank. It's 2,000 watt hours. It's huge. It's got a crazy inverter in it, but it's probably overkill for a lot of you out there. And in the comments of that video, a lot of people suggested I check out something smaller because this thing may be just too big or cumbersome for a lot of people to cart around in their car or even bring around camping or anything like that. And I think, again, that's where the 757 is going to strike a little bit better of a weight to performance balance. Let me get rid of this big guy for a second, and we're gonna talk about this guy. With all that jib jab out of the way, let's crack into this box and see what this thing's all about, because I haven't even opened this box. I just read the specs and I got pretty excited about it. So we're gonna have to take a look inside and see what it can actually do. Okay, so the first thing I've got here is a box that says before use. So it looks like all of the accessories. We'll open that in a minute. Got an incredible amount of styrofoam, and I just hit my microphone. And then we've got the actual 757 here. Is it 757, 757? I'm not entirely sure. So right off the bat, the thing that strikes me about the 757 is that, yes, it is a pretty large power bank. This isn't a small portable power bank you'd throw in your backpack, obviously, but it is a lot lighter than the larger 767 I just showed you. It's reasonable. I can pick it up with two hands. I can pick it up with one hand and move it around pretty easily. So getting this to and from your car or to your campsite wouldn't be the end of the world. In terms of form factor, this thing is about 18 inches wide, it's about 10 inches deep, and it's about 11 inches tall. So it's not huge, but it is pretty big. It kind of reminds me of like a cooler, like a small personal cooler, something like that size. But like I said, it's a little bit heavy. It comes in at 44 pounds, which is reasonable. I can move it around pretty easily, but it is something to consider. Now that we've got this thing out of the box, I want to take a look at this package that's separate in here. So it says before first use. Obviously, I should be opening this up if I'm going to use this thing. So let's crack into it and see what we got inside here. Looks like we've got the car adapter. So this is like your standard cigarette lighter style adapter. Cigarette lighter, we don't call them that anymore, right? It's called like an accessory port or a 12-volt port, not a cigarette lighter, but that's what they used to be called. Next up in the package, we do have your standard AC power adapter. It is a grounded plug on one side, and it's a typical 3-prong plug on the other end. I forget what they call this, but it's the same thing you'd find on the back of a computer or a monitor or a whole bunch of other things around your house. The next cable in the package is pretty interesting. On one end, you've got 3 solar connectors, and then on the other end, you've got a single solar connector. And what's cool about this is you can actually connect up to 3 solar panels to one end and then plug the other end into the unit and have up to 300 watts of charging directly into the PowerHouse 757. And the final thing that came in the package looks like to be some sort of dust cover for the unit itself, so you can kind of keep it clean in the basement or wherever you're storing this thing. Okay, now that we've gone through all the accessories, let's take a closer look at the unit. This might be one of the situations where you have to plug it in to turn it on, so hang on one second. All right, so I plugged in the unit and it did turn on. As you can see here, when I press the display button, we've got 23% out of the box of charge. I will fully charge this thing up, but for now, I want to go through all the features and look through the hardware. So the really cool thing about these PowerHouse units from Anker is that they do have a really useful flashlight. So right on the top here, this white strip is a flashlight. And if I hold this button down, I can actually turn it on. It will strobe and it has different brightness levels. So you've got a off, low, medium, and high. And what I like about this is it's a nice warm light. So you can imagine if you had a power outage or you're camping or something like that, you've got this kind of nice amber glow rather than a super bright, you know, kind of intense light. And this is a feature I really like because the bigger unit that I had on the channel before, the 767, also had this, and now on the smaller unit, we have a very similar feature, which I appreciate. And it also makes for a pretty interesting video light. Okay, so below the flashlight up top here, we do have a big LCD display here that shows your charge level along with a little battery animation here. And I believe when you do have stuff plugged into this and you've got things turned on, you can actually see the wattage output and the expected battery life of the unit as well. As you can see, I just turned on the inverter here, and down in the corner, it says estimated hours of 20 hours with nothing plugged in right now. If you have this plugged into your wall or you get it plugged into solar panels, you will see how many watts are coming into the unit. To the left of that display is a little switch, and this is the power saver mode. So if you have this turned off, the unit will always stay on even if nothing is plugged into it. It will never turn itself off. However, if you turn on power saver mode, the unit will automatically shut down when it detects that there's no output happening. So if you have, batteries charging on the AC inverter or stuff plugged into the USB outlets and they become fully charged and they stop drawing power, the unit will identify that and it will turn itself off. Moving right along, below that power saver switch on the left here is the DC output. And again, this is your standard cigarette lighter or accessory port from a car is on this unit as well. To the right of the car socket, you do have the USB connections, and there's a whole bunch to choose from here, which I appreciate. These USB type A ports are smart outputs, and they can serve up to 12 watts each. But more importantly are these two USB type C ports right above those USB type A ports, and these can support up to 100 watts from the top one or up to 60 watts from the bottom one here, which is very handy. That means I could bring this unit and my MacBook Pro out to a campsite or something like that, use the 100 watt output to my 16-inch MacBook Pro and be able to keep that fully charged without depleting the battery at all. And finally, all the way on the bottom right here, we do have the AC output. So this is an inverter that has 6 different plugs that you can plug things into, like standard household appliances. And again, you do have a button to turn on and off the inverter here. If you click that, you can hear a little relay turn on, and that means this AC inverter is now live. Again, with the car socket, you can turn that on and off. However, the USB ports always stay live. They are always usable, even if you have the unit just kind of sitting idly by. As long as it's on, you can use the USB outputs. Now, here's the really interesting thing about this unit. The AC inverter is quite powerful. This is a 1500 watt pure sine wave inverter. And keep in mind that 1500 watts is continuous use, which is a lot of power. You could power something like a microwave or a toaster or even a chainsaw or something like that directly from this unit without tripping the breaker on it, because the maximum output from this AC inverter is actually 2400 watts. In terms of what this thing can actually power, I'll be doing some testing on these AC outputs later in this video, but for now, let's move on to the inputs and how you can charge this thing. Okay, so flipping the unit over. So right up top here, you've got this sort of trapdoor flip down mechanism thing that's very similar to the other Anker units I've tested out on this channel. So if I open that up, you've got a few different ports. All the way on the left here, we've got the solar or DC input. This could be either from a solar panel or from your car. And this can handle up to 300 watts, so up to 30 volts at 10 amps, which is quite a bit for a unit this size. Next to the solar input, we do have a little button, and this is actually used to reset the breaker. So if you're using that AC inverter on the front and you manage to trip it by using something too power hungry, you can push this button in the back and reset it. And then all the way on the right here is the AC input. And again, you use that included cable to plug this into your wall. And the interesting thing about the AC input here is that this can handle up to 1,000 watts of input, which means if you plug this into your wall in your house, you can recharge this unit from 0 to 100% in just an hour and a half, which is pretty impressive because the capacity of this is pretty large. Now that we've gone through all of the input and output ports, let's talk about some of the specs here because it's pretty impressive. So this unit has 1,229 watt hours of capacity. That's a lot of capacity. So if you have a 120 watt device, like something like a TV, for example, you could run that for approximately 10 hours at 120 watts. The nice thing about this unit is that all of that 1,229 watt hours of capacity are provided by lithium iron phosphate or LiFePO4 batteries, which are safer, more reliable, and have a longer lifespan than other lithium batteries. These type of batteries are commonly used in electric vehicles, for example, because they are far safer than your standard lithium ion batteries. And because of those LFP batteries, this unit in particular has a 3,000 cycle lifespan. Now, after that 3,000 cycles, the battery will start to degrade, but it should still work for a long period of time. And again, because of that, you do get a 5-year warranty with this unit on the whole package, the actual enclosure, the inverter, everything, and the batteries. And on top of that, Anker says that they expect about a 10-year lifespan from this unit as well. Another thing I forgot to mention when I went through the hardware is the build quality of this thing. This thing feels like an absolute tank. It's got a lot of plastic on the outside, but inside there's actually an aluminum case that encloses the battery and all of the internals to keep everything protected. And on top of that, Anker has done a bunch of testing to make this thing what they call drop proof. Even though I wouldn't want to drop it, I believe that it would survive a drop, even though that it's pretty heavy because of the high construction. Everything feels like really solid materials, and I'm not worried about throwing this thing in the back of my car or my trunk and driving around with it. It should be fine. Now that we've gone through the actual PowerHouse 757, I want to go through one other accessory that Anker sent me, and that is the solar panel. So here we've got the Anker 625 solar panel. This is a single 100 watt solar panel that is fully compatible with the Anker PowerHouse products. And I just want to get this thing out of the box so we can take a look at it. It's tough to fit all this stuff on camera. Right off the bat, this thing feels really well made. The fabric on the outside is very, very premium feeling, and everything just feels really solid. There's some foam in here that I'll get rid of. All right, so this thing's borderline way too big to fit in my camera frame, but I'm gonna give it my best shot. So on the outside of the solar panel, you've got a couple of zippered compartments. On the top is this sort of mesh bag kind of compartment, and I'm gonna open that up to see what's inside. And it looks like we've got the actual little brick where you plug things into for the solar panel. This little brick has both a solar connector that we saw the same yellow connector on the unit itself. And next to that, you've also got a USB Type-C port in here and a USB Type-A port. So you could plug accessories directly into the solar panel to power them, like charge your phone or something, even without this unit. So you could just carry this thing around instead of the battery, and you can charge your phone at the beach or something like that, which is pretty cool. Below that mesh zippered compartment is another compartment with the Anker logo on the outside here. And inside here, we do have a couple of cables. The first cable is an adapter to convert your solar panel, the standard solar panel connector here, to what looks like an 8mm barrel adapter. And this adapter is commonly used in other power stations not made by Anker. So you could potentially purchase the solar panel by itself and use it on different power stations. And along with the adapter, you do get another cable here for the solar panel to plug this into the unit. And it looks to be pretty long. This looks like either 10 or 15 feet. It's probably like 10 feet, but a good amount of length here. And the cable itself does feel quite durable and high quality. It doesn't feel cheap, like it's gonna fall apart over time. So the Anker 625 solar panel has these handles at the top, and there's actually a magnet to keep them together, which is kind of nice. And then to open the panel up, it looks like there's actually Velcro that you gotta peel apart. It's a very strong Velcro. And then you reveal the actual solar panel, and there's no way I'm going to be able to open this thing up in the studio. We're gonna have to go outside and take a look at this thing. All right, now we are outside with the Anker 757 and the solar panel, the Anker 625 solar panel. This thing is really cool. So if we look at the back here, you can see a couple of things. First of all, there is 3 kickstands. There's 2 on the outside, and then that zippered pouch in the middle is actually an additional kickstand that Velcros to the back. So you've got the zippered pouch accessible from the outside, even when it's set up. There's also a couple of grommet holes in the corner here. If you wanted to connect it to your car or to your tent or something like that, you could do that. And what's really cool about this unit is this little indicator in the middle here. So if you look closely, you can see that the little dot, the little blue dot, is casting a shadow. There's an additional dot there. And the idea here is that you want the shadow to be in the red circle below it, and that will let you know that you have an ideal solar position. So right now I'm a little off. So as you can see, I just tweaked the angle of the solar panel a little bit. And now you can see I'm very close to being in that red circle. So I'm pretty happy with the position. And now that I've adjusted the angle, we're pulling in, looks like 80, 81, 79, 82 watts. That's pretty good from a 100-watt solar panel. So right now it's mid-May here in Massachusetts, so we do have a decent amount of sun, but I do suspect that later in the season, when it's, you know, July, August, we'll probably get even better performance from this setup. But right now, I'm pretty happy with the combination of solar panel and the Anker 757. I'm gonna bring the unit into the garage and we'll do some testing on what this thing can actually power, because I'm interested to see, can I plug some big like power saws and things into it? We're gonna find out. The first and most important test is to find out if I can make a cup of coffee with the Anker 757, because if you don't know, these coffee machines take a ton of energy to run. Inverter just kicked on. We've got 1200 watts almost on the output, and the fan within the unit just turned on. I don't know if you can hear it. It's a pretty quiet fan, but you can definitely hear it. But it's still working. No issues running the coffee machine, which is kind of a stress test in itself. Okay, on to the next appliance. We have a toaster. I've got that plugged into the inverter. The inverter is on. I'm gonna push down the toaster and we're gonna see what happens here. So here now we've got 561 watts of output. And again, no issues running that kind of load. In fact, we could run, you know, twice that. If I turn on the other side of the toaster, you know, we got 1100 watts, and again, the fan just kicked on. All right, we've got another stress test for the Anker 757. I've got my heat gun plugged directly into the AC inverter. We're gonna put this on maximum or high and see what that does. We are hovering right around 1000 watts, 979 watts, and it's running this without an issue. As you can see, we're getting red hot air coming out of the heat gun. And we're still at 974 watts. And here we have the largest appliance in my house plugged into the PowerHouse 757, and that would be my electric ride-on lawnmower. And as you can see, it has no problem powering the supercharger for my lawnmower. Unfortunately, my lawnmower is fully charged already, and it just charged it for a moment, and I didn't get that on camera, but trust me, this worked fine. This charger maxes out at 1440 watts to charge the lawnmower, and this handled it without an issue. Okay, now that we've put it through its paces and plugged up a whole bunch of different things into the PowerHouse to see how it charges and what it can do, along with bringing the solar panel out into the sun and seeing how that works, I can say this is a pretty cool package, and I'd be pretty excited to have this thing in my car for long road trips or for camping trips or for glamping when you want to have your laptop and even a TV around. You can run it all from this thing and recharge it on the go with the solar panel, which is super cool. And I know what you might be wondering, how much does it cost? So the Anker PowerHouse 757 comes in at $1,399 retail. However, it is on sale right now. So head over to Anker's website, which is in the description description down below. I've got a link for it where you can see the current pricing, because right now it is a pretty good deal. And on top of the pricing for the unit itself, you can also bundle in multiple solar panels for an additional price and get a bit of a discount there to get a better deal on the whole package. And with that, we have reached the end of this video and where I want to share my final thoughts about this unit. Like I said, this is a sponsored video, so obviously it's not going to be a review. It's more of a product highlight and overview. With that said, I don't take sponsor deals from just anybody. I really like Anker products. I've got a whole bunch of their products around the office here, in my car, in my bedroom for charging my phone and my laptop. They are everywhere and they make good stuff. And this thing is an absolute beast. I think for any camping trip or even for professional use, if you're somebody who's a carpenter or a construction worker or something like that, you can find some value in a unit like this where you don't want to run a gas generator with the fumes and the gasoline in your car and all of the mess that comes along with it. Something like this is clean, it's quiet, it's better for the environment, and overall it's a really nice package, and I expect this to last for a really long time. And I will say, for my personal use, I've got some travel coming up on the calendar for some racing and trail runs I'm doing, and where I'll be camping, I will definitely be bringing this along with me, where I'll have my car nearby and I want to charge my laptop and my GoPro and my drones and all my things. This is the perfect size for that type of application. And with all that said, I want to hear from you. Do you have a PowerHouse like this? Do you have a power station with this kind of capacity? And what do you do with it? Are you interested in the Anker 757? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you and what your use case is with a power station like this. And with that, we have reached the end of this video. If you found this video fun, helpful, entertaining, anything, please consider giving me a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel down below, because that helps me out. It helps my channel grow. Check out the podcast, the merch store, all the things in the description down below, and of course, the links that head over to Anker's website. And with that, I'll leave it there. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time. Bye.